What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. This is a story that I'm really excited about. Arguably the best comic that you're probably not reading. This is Geiger. This comic is like a mix between Fallout New Vegas and The Last of Us. The creators and writers behind this, absolutely phenomenal. Geoff Johns, Gary Frank, Brad Anderson, Rob Lai, coming from Mad Ghost and Image Comics. Now, if you're an OG to the channel, you know this comic. We covered it 40 years ago. But with indie comics really getting a rise, I wanted to jump back into the Geigerverse. And to do that, it all starts right here with Geiger. We're going to be covering Volume 1, Issues 1 through 6. If you're a fan of post-apocalyptic wastelands, this is the story that you need to be reading. Since this comic originally came out, they have expanded it from Redcoat to Junkyard Joe. A few of the titles going on, a few one-shots here and there, we're going to be covering it all. But to get to those phenomenal stories, we have to start with Joe Glow, the man of mass destruction, the walking bomb, the Meltdown Man. Our story starts us in 2050 with Geiger. With that being said, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright gang, so our story is picking us up with two guys out in the radioactive wasteland. And while they bunker down for the night, one man tells the other the story of Geiger, the story of the glowing man, the one that can walk outside without a radiation suit. It was all after the unknown war. That's when people started to see flickers of him out on the horizon, almost like a candle. This is the story of Tarek Geiger and everything good and bad that he did. He did it for his family. That's what picks us up in the year 2030. This is the day the bombs dropped. There's news broadcasts going out all over. And if you've been reading the other comics, going back and reading this is absolutely phenomenal because they're talking about stories that they're going to introduce, like Junkyard Joe. But don't worry, there's going to be plenty of the nuclear robot coming up. The thing about this war, the reason it's called the Unknown War, is because nobody knows who started it. But it didn't matter because when the bombs started dropping, it was already too late. As we are taken to Boulder City, Nevada, we are shown Geiger getting his family down into his bunker, his wife and two kids rushing down into the safety. And as they go to rush in, this is when his son notices that their dog Molly is barking at something. That something is a flare going up into the sky. Geiger rushes his children down into the bunker and then he runs out to grab that dog. But as Geiger returns, he gets shot in the leg. This bullet drops him down to the ground. It's Tarek's neighbors. They knew about his shelter, and they have come to take it, even making some comments as if his people probably started all this, so it's our right to take this. Geiger screamed at his family to get back inside, to get in the bunker and lock the door, to not open it for anything, saying his last I love you to his wife. The shelter door closes. The neighbor shooting the dog and then looking at him and saying that you need to open it up, to tell them and open the door or you're gonna die. But Tarek refuses. As his neighbor prepares to gun him down, that's when the bomb goes off. The nuke detonates. With a blinding light, the world goes white. And then, absolute darkness. 20 years later, we pick up in the post-apocalyptic world. We have some men out here from Las Vegas, or what remains of Las Vegas, and they're doing some scavenging. They're looking for anything that they can find. Most people, they've avoided Boulder City because of the stories, because of the monster of Boulder City. But many believe that these are just stories, an effort to keep people away from scavenging it. But as they make their way around, what they find is some kind of giant wall, a giant barrier. And of course, the scavenger's thinking to himself that there's a barrier here, there's a wall. There's got to be something good inside. So when they go up to the wall, they try prying open the doors. This is where they are greeted by Geiger. He lets them know that they are trespassing, that many have come to my property line. I give you this opportunity to try and leave, to walk away now before things escalate. Hearing the stories of the monster of Boulder City, hearing the stories of the glowing man, they don't find him intimidating, so they open up fire. That's when Geiger jumps in. He starts cracking skulls, breaking arms, and when he thinks that they've had enough, That's when he grabs the rods from his back. He pulls them out, and Geiger begins to glow. We get a full understanding of why he is called the Meltdown Man, radiating with his full potential. This is what Geiger has become. With this, he is able to successfully scare these men off, putting the rods back, and we see the glowing go away. So we appear to have these rods activating his powers, activating those nuclear abilities. Returning back inside, we see is a library. All the books that he has at his disposal, and every single one of them he's read before. We do notice the comic strip that is Junkyard Joe. Also, I want to give a huge shout out to GEOFF JOHNS and Gary Frank. When Junkyard Joe, the first issue, originally aired, they had sent me a signed copy, something I've always been hugely appreciative of, and something that we will be coming back to. We will be revamping those old videos of Junkyard Joe as well, getting caught up on all the Geigerverse. But we see that he's not here alone. In this apocalyptic wasteland, he has a companion, the two-headed wolf by the name of Barney. But the glowing man has stayed here. He has stayed here in Boulder City, and that's because he's protecting that shelter. His family has been inside of there. He has been waiting for the day that it is safe for them to open it up. He vows to stay by this door until the day it opens, until the day he can have his family back again. This is what hops us over to Las Vegas. Now, Vegas is broke up into multiple different factions, but to start it off, we have the King, in charge of his section of Vegas known as the Camelot. Him being the king makes sense. The men that had confronted Geiger were his scavengers. The word was that Safari Bob, one of the other rulers of the factions, he had made a deal with Geiger for everybody to stay out of Boulder City. Everybody listened until this day. As supplies started to run scarce, people started to wander into Boulder City. But the king doesn't care about Safari Bob or any of his laws, any pact that he may have made. The king says to gather the nuclear knights. He wants to find this myth of a man. This is his opportunity. He will slay a mythical creature. He will show the other bosses that he is his father's son, that he is more. He will bring the glowing man's head. This is his chance of vindication. This is his chance of glory. As we close out, we see a small little mapped out area of what it is to be in Las Vegas. From left to right, in the Coliseum, we have Nero. Down below at the Manhattan, we have Bonnie Borden. As we move across, we have Safari Bob, staying at, obviously, the Safari. Down below, we already know we have the King at the Camelot. Moving across, we have Shooting Star. This resort is led by Milky Way. And adjacent from that, we have Goldbeard. Last but not least, we have the Karloff Resort, ran by Karloff himself. These are the players in Las Vegas. These are the bosses and warlords of this new world. This is what hops us into issue number 2. We pick up before the war. Tara Geiger is getting the horrible news. He has cancer, and this cancer is progressing much faster than they could ever manage. But there are some treatments, some experimental things that they want to try out to see if it works, to see if it helps him. And as the stories go, they say that it was the cancer that saved him, that when the bombs went off, when he got stuck outside, the poison was bottled up, burning deep, broken in his heart. But before we can get back into the glowing man, we jump into the people of Las Vegas, because they are hugely intertwined with what happens next. We have two people making their way into Vegas on a motorcycle, and they are coming in hot with probably the most important thing anybody has ever scavenged in all the wasteland. They come in, they get decontaminated, and they make their way to Camelot. As they go inside, they meet up with one of the commanders by the name of Hazmat, currently gambling at the table, not really wanting to hear them out. But there's another player involved. That player is Carolina. She's the waitress, serving the drinks, overhearing these conversations. She overhears them talking about the Organ People out east. They had scavenged from Air Force One. They didn't know what they had, but they ended up trading it because they knew This is the king's holy grail. As they go to get the text and confirm this is what it is, the waitress sees that bag. It lies at the feet of Hazmat. Unable to resist the temptation, Carolina grabs it. The bartender seeing her, she takes off and she heads back to her apartment. Back there, she has her son and 16-year-old daughter, Henry and Haley. Now, their mom gets back and she's like, we gotta go and we gotta go now. What she has just stolen is gonna grant them safety. It is gonna grant them freedom. They have a relic from before the unknown war. What is called the nuclear football. The mother has a map drawn out going directly to NORAD, 80 miles south of Denver in the Cheyenne Mountains. This is the only place where there is any remnants of the American government left. As they gather up all their belongings, Hazmat kicks down the front door. In a frantic effort, she hides her children. She hides them away. She tries to play dumb. She tries to pretend she doesn't know what they're talking about, but everybody saw her. The camera saw her. The bartender saw her. There was no escaping this. Without hesitation, he drives his sword right into her stomach. When Henry cries out, he gives away their position, but they're able to squirt some cleaner in his eye and they make a getaway. Able to get in the elevator, barely able to escape with their lives. They get their hazmat suits on, the keys that their mother gave them. It goes to a fancy vehicle, they hop into it. With nuclear football in hand, they make their getaway out of Las Vegas. But now they have no idea what they're gonna do or where they're gonna go. They have the map that their mother gave them, but they have no idea what a nuclear football is, what the American government is. The truth is, they've never been outside the Las Vegas walls. And as they make their escape, they are attacked by giant radiated ants, knocking the vehicle off the road. We see them crash, and in a panic, they have to flee. They grab the nuclear football, they go to get out of the vehicle, but the ants are already on top of them, looking like this might be the end. This is where we have the arrival of Barney, the two-headed wolf, coming in and ripping these ants apart. As they look over, they see Geiger absolutely decimating these ants. He tells the kids it's time to go, that you guys gotta get out of here, you can't be here, it is too dangerous. Now at this point, back at Camelot, the king has heard the news, but the king also thought he was gonna get glory. Prior to all of this happening, him and his men went after the glowing man, and in doing so, it caused the king's face to look how it does. Blistered, deformed from radiation. Now hearing that his holy grail, the nuclear football, is out in the wasteland, he's even more infuriated. Wanting to make an alliance, he heads over to Manhattan. He heads over to have a discussion with Bonnie Borden. And this is what's gonna hop us into issue number 3. Our story picking us up with Geiger and the children. And Geiger's telling the kids that those things, those giant ants, those are called Nightcrawlers. And those were just the scouts. We gotta get out of here before the soldiers head this way. He tells them to get back in your car and head back to where you came from. But these kids are not able to. Their mother was murdered by the king's men. Geiger unable to not think about his own family, about his own wife. After just having to deal with the knights, the king's men, hearing that they committed this murder, he now almost feels an obligation to them. This is what picks us up the night that the king's men encountered Geiger, sleeping outside the bunker like he does every night. They had snuck in, using the darkness as concealment. They snuck into his armory, using his own guns against him. They opened fire. He had been caught by surprise. An explosion behind him, almost rendering him unconscious. The cocky king believing that he had won, joyful in the pillaging that they're about to have. Stealing all of his guns, stealing all of his supplies. As they prepare to behead him, this is when somebody hollers about a bunker, and now everybody's wondering what's he got stashed away. At this point, Geiger is begging, he is pleading with them, don't do it. Stay away from there. Take anything, everything that you want from me. Take my very life, but leave the bunker alone. Of course, the evil king, he had no concern of Geiger's pleas. And so they blew it. And in the explosion, the doors are broken down and what we find is nothing but skeletons. Skeletons that have been here for 20 years. This is the moment that Geiger finally had to face the truth. His family was dead. Now, one thing they don't know about Geiger is that those rods on his back, that is what contains his nuclear power. As they laugh gleefully at his family's demise, as they taunt him and mock him for guarding this bunker after all this time, only for there to be skeletons inside, he lets his rage loose. He grabs those rods. The glowing man has arrived, and he shows no mercy. He cuts down every one of these knights. He looks at the king, and he tells him that you took everything from me. I had nothing, and you took the last thing that I had. You took hope away. This is when he grabs hold of the king's face, and he leaves that mark upon him. He leaves this mark as a reminder to anybody and everybody that would cross his path. And so with these kids having nowhere to go, he tells them that I got nothing to offer you, but they have no car. They don't even know where they're headed. He tries to walk away from them. He tries to deny this responsibility. But when the king's men arrive, when they come to kill the children, Geiger cannot help but be the hero. With a giant neon green glow, in an instant, the king's men are dead, left in a fiery wake, and Geiger asks the children to see the map. And this is what is going to jump us into issue number 4. We pick up with Geiger and the kids finding a small, out-of-the-way hotel, a temporary stop for the night. And the kids are still kind of getting to know him. They're still a little bit skittish around him. Still not really sure about his dog, not really sure about him. But right now, they have no other option. They have no other choice. But as they get up the next day and they head into Arizona, they're following the map. They're headed to NORAD. And along the way, Haley wants to know about his story. The truth is, it all started with an accident. He was still alive after the blast, unable to control his nuclear power. The cancer therapy somehow already changed his body, but the fallout, it made it so much different. That is where Dr. Molotov came into play. He gave him the suit that fits the rods. This is the solution to keeping the energy within dampened. These rods stabilize his internal temperature and keep him from going nuclear. These are boron rods. Without these rods, he is a walking, talking nuclear bomb. He is a literal weapon of mass destruction. Now, back in Camelot, we have the young king who is going to his mother. His mother he refers to as the Beast. Back before the war, his father had been a senator, and his father, he had the codes for the nuclear football. He has the launch codes for all the nuclear weapons in the United States of America. Having these weapons would turn the tide. It would make you the king, the ruler, the dictator of all there is. But the king overthrowing his father, throwing his mother down into a dungeon, she refuses to give up those launch codes. Meanwhile, we have Goldbeard and we have Bonnie. The two of them are plotting. The king wants some help in finding this nuclear football. If they can help him find it and take it for themselves, it would give them the leg up. Seizing this opportunity, they're gonna help him out to the extent that it helps themselves out. Now, this is what hops us back over to Geiger. As they're making their way down the road, this is where they run into the Organ People. After the bomb, some people, they refuse to wear suits. Their inbred bodies and minds are riddled with tumors. They spend their time hunting for donors, for new organs, and whatever they can't stitch into themselves, they eat. Within seconds, they are swarmed. An ambulance, motorcycle, burger trucks. This is straight up Mad Max style. And as these deformed monsters begin to attack them, Geiger does all he can to hold them off. Having Haley take the wheel, he gets out on top of the vehicle and he starts fighting them, running to more drastic measures. Geiger pulls out those rods, and we see him laying down the hate. One by one, Geiger is smashing these monsters up, with Geiger falling onto the enemy vehicle, causing them to crash. We see Haley stop the Jeep. She stops it. She goes to get out, to go and see if Geiger is still alive. But as she gets out, one of the organ people, they grab hold of her. They grab her leg, with it attempting to eat her. It gets shot in the head. And that bullet comes from a ridge nearby. What we see are individuals in suits, in armor, in camouflage, and on their shoulder, the United States flag. The American government has arrived. This is what hops us over to issue number 5. Now, starting off this issue, we pick up back at that campfire. The man telling the story of Geiger. After the bombs had fallen, Geiger spent 20 years protecting his family. But when the king of Las Vegas led his nuclear knights in an attack, he learned the horrible truth. His family had been dead for years. The shelter had caved in by the bombs that started the unknown war. He had been protecting a grave for 20 years. Geiger had killed most of the knights, but he left the king alive, scarred forever. After that, the glowing man headed into the desert. He headed there with nowhere to go. That's until he met the children, hoping to get them someplace safe, hoping to get them to the last holdout of the United States. But things never go as they planned. This is what picks us up with the military. Young Henry is letting them know that our mother told us to find you, that what we have is some kind of football and it belongs to you guys. That they don't know what it is, but everybody is wanting it. As they get the kids and grab them, put them in the Humvee, saying that we're gonna get your friend. What they do is tase Barney, and then they knock out Geiger. With the US military now entering the picture, we pick up with the king, Goldbeard and Bonnie by his side. He is currently torturing one of these organ people for answers, though it's rather pointless torture considering they can't even really speak. But one of his goons, they do find the map that leads directly to NORAD. And so the king and all of his men, they're going for his holy grail, taking us to NORAD, taking us to that underground bunker. The nuclear football had gone missing years ago, but now giving the report to the vice president, our general is saying that it's finally been found. If it is in fact the nuclear football, we now have the site of every nuclear warhead in America. We know where all the silos are, that the South, the Great Lakes, with this nuclear arsenal, they would have no choice but to unite, to fall under one command. Now the children, they try to quickly integrate them. The first person that they meet is Rick. And if they're being honest, this is the first time that Henry has ever seen a classroom. He has ever seen recess. He's never even been to school, so he doesn't understand the concept. But we quickly learn that this Rick kid, I don't know, there's something sinister about him. He tells them good luck, but he's got his fingers crossed. As they continue on their tour, they go to get their physicals done and all that good stuff. We pick up with Geiger. The scientists have already begun observing him, seeing that his radiation is just off the charts. They see the rods that are in his back. Not knowing what they do, they pull them out. And with that, the nuclear man comes online. With Geiger now awake, he beats up the guards and he heads out. He rescues Barney and they go to escape this place. They got the kids here, they did what they needed to do, now it's time to go. But when we pick up with young Henry, what we learn is that he has leukemia. The kid is in the early stages of cancer, and the way society works here, he can't stay. They euthanize anybody that has some kind of illness that cannot contribute to the furthering of society. And so the doctor goes and talks to Haley, talks to his sister and lets her know, like, you can stay here, but your brother, we're gonna kill him. We're not gonna send him into the wasteland because we're not monsters. But he has leukemia. This is the most compassionate, life-ending program that we can offer him. And obviously, Haley tells her, what are you talking about? In a fit of confusion and rage, we see Haley run out of the room. She goes screaming for Henry, and in doing so, this catches the attention of our pup. Barney hears this and he goes running. When a guard and the doctor try to calm down Haley, Barney doesn't hesitate. He rips these dudes to pieces. By the time that Geiger gets here, he's trying to figure out what's going on, trying to figure out where Henry is. Learning that they're gonna kill Henry, Geiger's gonna put a stop to it. Upon the president hearing this information, hearing that Geiger is loose, they don't tolerate violence in this place. So it's time they activate their best soldier. It is time that they bring the robot online. This is what takes us to the final issue of Volume 1, issue number 6. It starts us off showing us a few individuals that we're going to be seeing throughout the Geigerverse. starting us at the American Revolution. Now, America has always been at war. In every war, there are men and women. They rise up, they fight for family, they fight for freedom. Some of these heroes are known, but some of them aren't. They call them the unnamed, like the immortal, like the historian in the American Civil War, like the monster during World War II, and like Junkyard Joe, like the robot from the Vietnam War. There was the widow, and then there was the ghost. The Unseen War, January 20th, 2025, and back to the end, back to where it all began, the Unknown War, July 4th, 2030, the rise of the Glowing Man. The year was 2050, nearly 20 years to the day after the bombs forever changed Geiger's life. The King of Vegas. He discovered the map. He envisioned his sword slicing through the Glowing Man open. Back in his casino, he had the mural that was already complete. He was sure of it, that today was the day he would have his recognition. This is what takes us inside of NORAD. A guard getting thrown through a door because they are rescuing Henry. Now, Haley at this point, she's apologizing. She's sobbing. She's crying. She had always been mean to her little brother. He had always been complaining, always been in some kind of pain. She thought he was just being a kid. She thought he was just being a whiny little brat, not knowing that he had leukemia this whole time. Now, getting all this information at once, Henry's like, what the hell's going on? He just starts crying, like, I don't want to die. I don't want to be sick. I want to stay here. What's going on? This is when Geiger calms down the situation. He tells him that I was sick. I was scared. I had nobody around to really help me out. Only a few, just like you, and we're gonna help you. Embracing young Henry, he tells him that I'm here for you. And so as Geiger punches his way through the guards, the help with Barney by his side, we have that young kid Rick, who seemed kind of weird at first. He appears to be helping them out, helping them escape. He's giving them an exit. But as the doors open up, we see Geiger get punched. And as he goes flying, we see the Tin Man. We see the robot, the Vietnam War veteran. We have Junkyard Joe. And even all of them recognize that it looks like the comic strip. It literally looks like the cartoon. Geiger pulling out his rods, going nuclear. He tells the kids to stand back, and the two of them go toe-to-toe. As Geiger grabs his head, he tries to melt Junkyard Joe, but he sees that it doesn't work. That Junkyard Joe's armor, his helmet, all of that melts off, but Junkyard Joe remains intact. This is where he hits Geiger and he sends him flying. With one of Geiger's rods already being broken, there is only one dampening rod left. If Tarek doesn't get it back, he will explode. And so the kids try grabbing it, but it's so stuck in the ground they can't do anything. This is when Rick comes rushing out. His eye starts bleeding. The air, he's not able to breathe it right, but he saw that they needed help, so he helps them pull the rod out of the ground. With them successfully pulling it out of the ground, they rush over to Junkyard Joe and they rush over to Geiger. This is where Junkyard Joe, he turns on them. He shoots missiles at the children. This is the first time the Americans have seen this active. Junkyard Joe had been reprogrammed. He does what needs to be done. He will kill every last one of them. With Junkyard Joe grabbing his last rod, he takes that rod and he shoves it into the chest of Junkyard Joe. As Junkyard Joe falls to the ground, we see the power shut off in his eyes. But now Geiger has nothing to control him, nothing to stop him from absolutely exploding. He tells the kids to leave. He tells them to run away. But Henry and Haley, they refuse to leave his side. He says that he can't control it, but they don't believe that. They know that he is not going to hurt them, that he has done everything to protect them. And so because of that, he will find a way to control himself. And with Henry and Haley making their way, and when they touch his shoulder, we see the nuclear energy subside. As we see that young kid Rick, the guards grab him. They get him inside. He waves goodbye as the kids and Geiger leave. They grab a nearby Humvee and they get out of here, not really knowing where they're going or what direction that they're headed, but they know that they gotta leave. But if they thought that they were out of the thick of it, this is when on the horizon, they see the King's men getting out and telling them to wait here. He walks up to them. The King's men, they charge in, and with him going nuclear, he starts taking them out left and right. Not a single one of them could survive. With Goldbeard and Bonnie seeing this, both of them, they're like, we're out of here. We're dipping, we're getting lost. And as Geiger hops back into his Humvee, he tells the king to meet me in Boulder City 1 week at sunset. This is what picks us up 3 days later at Copper Canyon, Mexico. We pick up at a fort. Geiger is pulling up with the kids, and he runs into an individual by the name of Nurse Red. They tell him that he's not welcome here, and he knows this, but he's here for the kids. He's here to drop them off. This is where he says goodbye to them. He leaves Barney with the children, not knowing what his fate will be. It doesn't seem that Geiger plans to return, and so Geiger went home. He read his favorite books. He did his dishes. He took down his wall. He buried his family, and he waited. He waited until sunset. He waited for the king and his men to arrive. And Geiger tells the king that there is nothing here that you can hurt. Not anymore. Before, I held back. There were things I was worried about. People that I worried would die. But my wife, my family, my kids are dead. Those kids are now in a safe place. And all I see before me are enemies. And so Geiger, he opened up his heart. And in that, he found peace. In the far-off distance, we see Barney watching. He watches as that fiery explosion lights up this desert sky. This is what takes us back to that campsite. We finally learn that they are camped right outside of the crater that Geiger had made when he killed the king and all of his men. Right here at this spot. This is where Tarek Geiger became legend. That was the end of the king. That was the end of Boulder City. But for Geiger, it wasn't the end of his story. As we see it glowing off in the distance, that was just the beginning of Geiger's story. Now back in Las Vegas, we have a meeting of all the ones in charge, all our warlords, all our bosses. We see that the queen is now in charge, apologizing for the actions of her son, that they were all unsanctioned. But the king did do one thing. He stirred up the glowing man. But maybe that this could be a benefit to them all. The military wants Geiger. They want the West. This is where the general comes in. She assures them that the president will be willing to make some kind of arrangement as they drink over their pre-war whiskey. That is where this issue will end. Alright, so before we dive too far into this, I'm going to show you guys the timeline of where we started and where we are. These are all the stories that we can expect to come. Now, Redcoat is already an ongoing series. You can go out and pick up that story right now. You can learn where Redcoat became immortal. That starts us in 1776. The next unnamed hero, the Northerner, 1864. The next World War II, the monsters made in 1944. 1972, Junkyard Joe comes online. The Vietnam War. 1997, American Widow X has her revenge. 2025, the first ghost is captured on film. 2030, the unknown war erupts. 2050, Geiger walks across America. That is the timeline in the Geigerverse. Now, if you would like to read everything that's currently going on, you have Geiger 1 through 6. You have Geiger, the 80-page special. You have Junkyard Joe 1 through 6. Tales of the Unnamed, The Blizzard. You have Geiger Ground Zeroes issue 1 and 2, Ghost Machine number 1, and then you have Geiger that is currently ongoing. I think they're on issue number 13 right now, and then Redcoat, I think 1 through 10 is currently out. All in all though, I love the Geigerverse. Anybody that actually knows me knows I am a sucker for the post-apocalyptic wasteland. So this story is right up my alley. Super radioactive humans, bugs, factions like Fallout, trying to save a sick kid by getting him from one place to another like The Last of Us, loosely. All of it's fun, all of it's intriguing, and I cannot wait for all of us to jump into the Redcoat, into Junkyard Joe. You know, these are stories that I had covered in the past, but they didn't get a lot of traction. They weren't hugely sought after. But now that there's a resurgence of indie comic love, I'm hoping that we can get some traction with these and people can enjoy these comics. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know your thoughts, let me know your theories. If you want to get caught up on everything going on with this series, go ahead, check out the link in my description as well as the top of this video. It'll get you completely caught up on everything going on with this series. If you would like to support the channel, you can always do so by joining the channel membership. Much like Patreon, having multiple different tiers, from $1 to $50, from loyalty badges to comics every single month. Not only are you helping out the channel tremendously, you are getting tons of perks in the process. Now, if you're unable to do this, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, like this video, hit that notification bell, and with that being said, until the next breakdown.